Welcome to the Measure Q Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, here at 6:35 p.m. Please stand for the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Hey, Gary.
Demerits.
I think you're too soon for demerits. Too early for demerits.
Okay, roll call. I am here and serving as chairperson. Gary Riddle,
Here.
Georgette Portier,
Here.
Andrea Kett,
Here.
Julie Mustard,
Here.
Jack Caldwell,
Here.
and Robert Strong is absent tonight. He generally cannot make the first Wednesday of any month, so we'll keep that in mind as we do future scheduling. I move to adopt the agenda as printed. Do I have? Yes?
I move to adopt the agenda as
Second?
presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Approval of the minutes. There are a few changes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, on the roll call to order, shown as absent, and I was actually present for the meeting, late to the roll call. So, present.
Thank you.
You're
So we'll get-
welcome.
We'll get that correction taken care of.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee members? Any comments from the public on the minutes? Okay, I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve the minutes
Second.
as amended.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. We have nothing on the consent calendar, so we are ready to move on to the agenda. So the first item is to review the November draft of the audit report. We were all provided copies, and this was an item requested by Gary Riddle.
Well, I did a quick review and nothing jumped out at me. About the only thing left, I'd probably go through some of these numbers, see that, we get these year-end report, and we should be able to balance to that as far as expenses. We'll have some time to address any other items, but I don't see anything at this point.
Melissa, I had one question for you. If you look on page 4, they have the fund balance as of June 30th, at a little over 17 million. And then if you go to page 8, the amount held in the county treasury of cash and cash equivalents is a little over 18 million. One, should that be the same number? And two, is that the same money, just where it's sitting? And if so, is there a discrepancy there?
Looks like there is somewhat of a discrepancy because we didn't draw down the entire bond. I need to check with them on that. Well, the cash wouldn't be the same as the actual fund balance, so cash flows can differ from fund. Sorry.
No.
Cash flows do differ from fund balance. There could be accruals and different items that make the fund balance different if an expense hadn't gone through by June 30, but was going to go through after June 30.
Okay.
So basically, the difference is the accounts payable part?
Yes.
Because it hasn't been paid yet. Oh, but, yeah.
So, Ms. Melissa, in terms of, let me see, page 3, just so I understand how to read this. Okay. Will this line up to the actual overall project budget? You know what I mean? Like, the total, let me see, let me start with the total liabilities and fund balances. Like, should this 18 mil be for all three, and that's for the overall,
That's for what we've drawn
First-
down thus far.
yeah, for the
Yes.
first issuance?
Yes.
Okay.
So this was the beginning balance as of 7/1, and then the
And one of 2017.
Wait, no. This is the cash balance as of June 30, 2018. And
Okay.
then the accounts payable is what we were talking about earlier, that it was an expense of 17/18, but not paid until 18/19.
Right, okay.
And then that's how you get to the 17 for the balance.
Okay. Gary, I have a question for you. Who's in the audit review subcommittee? Audit subcommittee? I know we have it in her report, but I just don't know who's part of that subcommittee.
Well, Jack was, I don't know if he still wants to be or not.
Oh, yeah, I'm still.
Okay, so it's both of you?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
All right, I just wanted to know who.
Yes.
In fact, our bylaws state that the vice chair is a member of the audit committee.
I'm sorry, say it
Anybody,
again.
our bylaws,
Is vice chair is member of all
no, of the audit
audit?
committee.
Okay.
And that works out well for you. So my impression of reading through this is it's not completely comprehensive, but it basically captures the major expenditures. It doesn't capture every tiny little item that may have been spent. Is that true?
It is a complete audit of the entire fund, but all audits do a sampling of expenditures when they're looking at the detail selection.
So if you had a minor expense of a few $100s, that necessarily wouldn't be broken out in this, would it?
It wouldn't be broken out in this. It would be in the detailed financial statements that I've provided, like those reports that have
Right.
everything in it. That's where that would be.
Okay.
So is the district requesting for like comments from us or from?
No, we just, we're required to give this to you. We actually haven't made, it hasn't made it to our board yet. It won't go to our board until January, but I wanted to make sure that you had this. This is very draft form. There's just a few things, it won't change, but I wanted you just, that's part of your duties is to review the audit. And then the audit is really reviewing that we did spend the money in accordance with Measure Q. And so the finding of this audit is that we are in compliance with spending the funds in accordance with Measure Q, and there are no audit findings.
Okay. And so, but if we have comments or something like that, when would those be due?
I would take them to the board, which I'll let you know the board date when this goes to the board for approval, so that if you wanted to make any changes, or the board meeting prior, so that we can know that they can take that into consideration before accepting and approving the audit report.
Okay.
And I believe there's a school board meeting tomorrow. Is this on the agenda for
It is
tomorrow?
not.
Okay.
This isn't even required to go to the state until the 15th. of December.
Okay.
No, we'll get probably a final when,
In January. It goes to the board in our final will be the 15th, but it's not final until it's board approved in January. The final draft will be submitted, I'm sorry, that didn't come out correctly. The final draft will be due by the 15th of December, but it will not be approved until January, and that's when it's the final.
Okay, so if we have any like comments or suggestions or whatever that can be brought up to the district, when would those be due? If
I
we
would
have-
say the first board in January,
The first,
board meeting in January. There's only one in December, so it'll have to be the first, I can get that date to you as well.
okay.
First Thursday of the month.
So on page 11, number 4, the commitments and contingencies. Those are basically the contracts that are out. That'll happen. Those are the projects that have been awarded?
Yes, these are the transactions that took place in 1718. The contracts that were awarded in 1718.
Okay, but only the expenditures in the second column are the ones that are in the actual audit, because that's what happened.
That's what was actually spent.
Yeah, so the last column is what's been budgeted for,
Yes,
to those people, okay.
yes.
And that might explain the difference in those numbers I mentioned earlier.
No, I think the difference in those numbers are really just the accounts payable. So it's kind of like where in June, you know that you have received product for 300,000, but you don't get your invoice until July. So that's kind of what it is. So it's paid, the cash is being released in July, but the expenditure should be tracked in June, because that's when you actually received the product or service. Is that helpful? Okay.
On the bottom of page 10, it talks about the bonds being issued at various interest rates in staggered amounts, I guess various maturity dates as well. And I think we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. Does the interest rate for future bonds being issued have an impact on the assessed tax rates for Measure Q? Or do you know that?
That is way over my head. I'll have to take a note on that one and write it down.
well, whatever the scheduled payment is what'll have an influence on the tax rate. And I don't know if you've seen there's a schedule in the bond issuing documents, and it has the payments for each year. And last year was over $2 million. And then it goes down, it went down this year, and it fluctuates. And then, whatever the total assessed value of property,
That does have an impact.
those are the two numbers that determine your back rate. How much, that determines what you're going to pay, whatever the assessed value of your property. And
So two variables then, the cost of repaying those bonds and the amount of available assessed property.
right. Yeah. So it'll fluctuate every year, probably some years more than others. Last year that we noted in our audit report was significantly higher than was estimated.
So I do have the calculation of how it works. It's total net debt service divided by assessed value times 100,000. So the interest rate is not part of that. The main factor is the assessed value.
Can you read that again, please?
The tax rate is calculated by the total net debt service divided by the assessed value times 100,000.
So that total net debt service, is that a fixed value?
It would reduce every year. I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it starts from the beginning, but I would assume it reduces every year by what you've paid down.
Well, you got your home mortgage, that's a fixed amount every single month, regardless of interest rates, because it's, the debt repayment is on a fixed schedule. So if we issued $30 million of
say
bond,
30 million
is,
the whole time.
is that a fixed payback? And the only variable is the amount of assessed property then?
It would,
Those amounts do vary. The way the bond is structured, the paying back on the bond payments each year does vary. And I'll take that page out there and send it to everybody and see what I'm,
Because that's one of the items we still have to work on our final report, is those 2 paragraphs that we had were a bit confusing. Yes, please.
The information you are looking for is on our website, measureqoversight.com. And it's maturity schedule based on the 300,000. And it says in 2018, the interest rate was 2%, and the principal amount was 1.45 million. In 2019, the interest rate is 3%, and the principal amount is 385,000. In 2020, the principal amount is 130, and the interest rate is 4%, and it goes on until 2036, where the principal amount will be over $1 million, and the interest rate is 4.5%. And all that information, like I said, it's on our website,
Which tab is that under, Arenia?
under reports, I think.
Reports, okay.
Yeah. And I think it's the last one,
General
the last one on
operations.
the,
Okay.
okay.
yeah, the interest is not a fixed amount over the term of the bond. It fluctuates from year to year.
We're going to have to capture that in our,
Well, that would have been something at the very beginning, with we could have got a little bond issue 101 so we'd somewhat understand that a little clearer, but
I can invite someone next time to come and speak on this. Rachel from Cooperative Strategies is an expert on this matter, and I think that she'd be able to come and walk us through this a little better.
And we talked about having Chuck Lamelli come also from Solano County, so if we had both of them, that would probably be really,
I'm sure Chuck's got knowledge about how the bonds work, because he did the investments for the treasurer for many years before he became the treasurer. Well, not many, but he I think could give us an overview of the total about the county, the assessor, the auditor controller, and the treasurer, their various duties. That would be the thing that would
Yeah.
help us.
well, and then to explain kind of the FAQs of this page
Correct.
would be great. Okay.
so can you reach out and get tentative dates of availability so that we can work together, for maybe mid-January or mid-February meeting and have this happen? We've talked about it for the past 3 meetings, and we really just need to get it scheduled.
Absolutely.
Miss Melissa,
Yes, ma'am.
on page 11, I don't want to review all of it yet because I have to really look at it, but are these supposed to be all the contracts in place in fiscal 17, 18 with any expenditures or expenses against them?
This recaptures 17, 18.
So I was looking at one, I was just, going through it, and I don't see Dudek here. I know we made some payments to them in 17, 18, and we have an encumbrance. So I just want to make sure that we looked at the whole, revisit it again and make sure all the encumbrances are.
If you look at that, expenditures to date is less than the expenditures on the page 4,
Mm-hmm.
so they're not all on there.
But they
'Cause that
should
has
be, or should they be? Or,
These are the unfinished, so that the PO has not been completed or closed. But Dudek also hasn't been completed or closed, so
Oh, unfinished, okay. So that's what the difference is. The expenditures on page 4 are more
then,
than the ones on 11, because the ones on 4 include finished projects, like finished, closed contracts.
well, it's not closed yet. I mean, 17, 18, I see they still have some remaining amount in their contract
for Dudek,
for Dudek, yeah. Like, I'm sure there's a carryover for this year. So all I'm saying is, I just want to make sure we review all the encumbrances we had for 17, 18.
I'll check on Dudek and see if it was closed out before, and if
Yeah.
that's why, if it was 2 separate POs, and I'll
Okay.
get back to you real quick.
All right, thank you. That's just one, I don't want to look at all of them. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and write down Aurora as well, just
Okay.
double check on
Aurora, I know that those were 3 separate little ones,
that. Okay.
so that's really possible that that's how that one worked, is that there was 3 separate POs. And I don't know. So what I think it is Dudek was not charged to capital projects. This says it's a summary of the capital projects, and that was charged to outside services instead of capitalized. So I believe that's why that's not included, and Aurora wouldn't have been capitalized either.
Okay. But Dudek should have been, or no?
No, they're
No?
little small things that were not construction. They were not actual construction, so it wouldn't go to the 6,200, or, excuse me, I'm sorry, to capitalized projects.
But the co-op strategies would be, and optimum inspections, I can understand. LPAs, is it because it's such a big amount that you
All
would,
the architectural gets capitalized.
okay. But what about co-op strategies for the disclosure compliance? That would be capitalized then?
I wouldn't think that would be capitalized.
But that would be, that would explain why it's not here.
But
It's
that
because
is-
it's not,
Their
Yes.
contract was closed out the year before, the first year,
which one? The,
Property Strategies.
Property strategies, we continue to have a contract with them because they do our disclosure compliance. So we have a contract with them every year. There was.
what exactly is disclosure compliance?
It's this requirement that I have to do once a month that is, I believe it's sent to all the people who hold the bonds, or anybody who has any financial interest in what we're doing. And it just says, have we taken on any new debt? Has anything changed? And so it's a little questionnaire I go through every single month that is publicized somewhere.
I don't see them on the fiscal year 2018-19
Where are you looking?
at your expense transaction.
Oh, this one is only, I changed the way I ran this one this time, and I didn't do it for the whole entire year to date. This is a different item, the next item, but I only ran it, per your request, from the last date to this date, from the last meeting we had until this date.
Are we moving on?
I don't think I saw it on the last one either. I thought their contract ended last year.
That was for different services.
So it's in this group of contracts that you gave us here, is it in here?
There is something in here, I just saw it. Yes, this one is for, no, that's the 18 one. Different one for 18. That's the 17 one. We may have paid it on a direct pay. I'd have to look on that one, but I know we will continue to have that $5,000 a year.
They're the ghost company that's the host on our website, right?
Yes.
No, they're not in here. I don't see it.
Looking for PO, Gary? For them? You're looking for a PO for them? Okay, I was just gonna look and help.
Yeah, I don't think it's here. I thought their contract was over. I didn't see any expenses for last year on any of the expense reports for them last year.
There was expenses for them last year.
Oh, yeah, no, it's there, Gary. I see some that says disclosure compliance for $787.50. It's in the expenditure report.
For last fiscal year.
Last fiscal, yeah. It looks like, for example, June 21, it says for $787.50, so they do pay them. It's right here, Gary. It was on the top one that they gave us, that's with paperclip. It's like the fourth page.
Oh, these that are clipped together?
Yeah. It's there. They have an annual,
Oh, I did.
or I'm assuming, so B is blanket?
Yes.
Yeah, a blanket PO.
Yeah, you're right.
Did anybody else have questions on the report?
No.
No? Gary, did you want to continue looking through it?
Well, I'll look a little closer at the numbers on the audit report.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure they're all okay.
Any public comment on the audit report?
You're the,
Where are all your
We're friends.
Okay. Are we then ready to conclude on that item? Okay. Moving on to the review of recent financial statements.
Okay.
So this is the same format that I presented last time, but I am working with Georgette on the Excel spreadsheet. I've also provided all of the contracts thus far with the POs attached to them, so you can see that the POs align with the contract amounts. This report in front of you today is from November 7th, going through December 5th. And again, it just starts with the salary expenditures for this month. Then breaking down into, when you get on page 2, past the $93, the first expenditure, there you would see, or you see the number 46,000. You can see that there are some new POs in this section. So you'll notice that there's a new PO for Architectural Nexus for the Gretchen Higgins Security Project, and a new encumbrance for the Optima inspection roof, but there are no actual expenses yet. The next section shows that we have a new contract for Cal Inc., 2 new contracts for Cal Inc., one for the mold abatement and one for the asbestos abatement. The next section is, what we have here is LPA, and we have the Division of the State Architects, so we did cut a check to DSA, but we have not expensed anything for LPA, but they have been out at the site, and they've been looking on the roof and they're getting ready, so that's exciting. The next section, we also have a new PO for the PO for Architectural Nexus. I actually moved it from up above down to here, so it's in the right section. So the Architectural Nexus up above actually zeroes out, and it comes down here. And the next page, we show the new PO for Crusader Fence, which that should be taking place over the Christmas break. And we have just the encumbrances for LPA, but there are no expenses in that section to show, or there was. What was that one, the 531? That was just a balance forward, yeah. So no expenses quite yet. So that's what's happened in the last month since I've seen you. We have awarded those new contracts.
Well, Georgette is looking for stuff. I know last month, before John Cleese left, he put out a mailer highlighting all the construction work, repair work that was done, and mailed it out. Is that going to continue?
I believe we intend on doing that on a quarterly basis.
Quarterly basis, okay. You have a target date for the next one?
I haven't looked into it just yet. The last one just came out, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it'd just be 3 months after that.
Okay.
So, Miss Melissa, I know on some of the POs, you've attached the actual contract, or, okay, so what about the actual solicitation itself? How do we get a hold of that?
The solicitation, where was I on the solicitation? The ones that we went out to solicitate have actually gone to the board as well as an award of the contract, and it was only those big ones. Which ones was it? The large projects or contracts. So LPA, it was LPA and salary issuance. Not CalLink, that one was less, the roofing project, and Schneider. So those were the large projects that are over the required dollar amount per the ed code.
Okay, so let me ask my next question then, just so I understand the ed code. When it comes to consultants, is there a threshold, or do you guys have on-call services already? So how do I know which ones you technically have to go and get an RFQ for versus you already have on-call services, you know, like a blanket on-call services from another firm where, you know, you can call upon and just get a quote? So, okay, so I guess here's my question then. For example, Optima, I guess? Let's just say Optima. Optima is an inspection company, And you said they're gonna do the Gretchen Higgins one? And that one just got approved this fiscal year, right?
So that one, the situation with that one is there was hardly any IORs out in the industry
Oh,
for us
okay.
to choose from. And we did put out a request and we did not receive any responses.
Okay, so this is just like the re-roof.
Yes, we did, and so then we went out and found somebody that would, we searched and we begged and we borrowed and stole until we could find an IOR that would come and do it because we didn't get any responses.
But do you guys have does the district have a policy where, you know, anything under 10K, technically I can go direct negotiate with anybody, or is there anything
We
like
really
that?
follow the ed code, which I believe this year it's 85,000 on the construction projects, but our internal policy is anything over 10,000 has to go to the board.
So, okay, I can understand, which one was it? Optima, okay, so Optima, nobody wanna come bid for work. So,
They're just so busy.
yes, understand. Okay, so, and then which ones are new encumbrances for this fiscal year again?
I'll be right, okay.
Let me see, Optima and was.
Architectural Nexus and LPA were decided at the same time during that
I
process.
remember that.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that
I
was
remember
that
the
one.
Architectural Next is gonna do the Gretchen Higgins one.
Uh-huh, and then
That's
let's see what else
fine.
we have here.
We already went through the actual solicitation for that, so that's good. Oh, Crusader Fence, did we go out to
Did go out
bid?
for that one on Crusader Fence. We
When did
But
we-
I'll find a way to formally communicate that to you in.
Yeah,
a
so I
more-
mean, bottom line, all I'm asking is for any of these encumbrances, if you did go out to solicit, just want a copy of how you did go out and, you know, when they did come back to submit bids. Typically, you have that already in your board agenda, you know, there's 5 people came in, this is all their numbers, you know, we're picking the lowest one or whatever, you know. So I just want to know how you got to awarding the contract to that person.
Okay.
That's all. So our company.
And Georgette, that's just going forward?
I was hoping for, from the beginning,
So
but.
I will go back. There's not that much that's been done thus far.
Okay,
I mean, there's
thank
only a
you.
few that are large projects. We can definitely get that information for
Thank you. And I know John tried to provide like RFQs for the architectural side of it, but it didn't really like continue on, you know what I mean? I think we have the info for LPA and Architectural Nexus. We have the RFQ for that, the SOQ, did we get the SOQ? I'm not sure if we got the SOQ, but, you know, we're already there, that's fine. But if, moving forward, perhaps give us the information. If there's other previous ones that I would really like to, that Gary and I would really like to see, we'll just send that on to you.
Okay. I think that I could probably get most of it, though.
You think, okay, then I'll just wait for you then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tad?
Yep.
Melissa, so, on the Crusader Fence, just out of curiosity, how many, do you have any idea how many contractors responded to the?
I don't. I know that was before John handed the baton over, so I'm not quite sure how many,
Okay.
how many people responded to that one.
Okay, and then, so I know both of my questions are probably going to be, anyway, and I was just curious about what the fence material was and the footage of fence and so on and so forth, because, and,
I think the contract is attached here to the PO.
oh, okay.
But do you guys have any bid documents, like plans and stuff, that actually went out to show?
Yes, we did have we had it all written up and the way the fence was gonna go and how to open up the campus.
Okay, so I guess let me follow up with another question then, because I feel like we really need a true shared site for working documents, not necessarily reports, you know, and meeting minutes and all that, but working documents. Perhaps provide us not just the solicitations and whether it's SOQ or bids, you know, just a scan of how much, perhaps the contract award, actually the board agenda or report that says, you know, 5 people went to bid, 5 people submitted bids, you know, we're picking this guy, that's fine. But also provide us the bid documents as part of the solicitation, you know, like when you go out to bid, you know, contractors, here's our set of plans and specifications, can you please provide me a number? You know, so we need to start talking about A shared file, I mean, I don't know if the committee is open to maybe just opening up like a Google Drive. I mean, we all have our Gmail account that comes with, you know, the Google Drive. So maybe, I don't know if she can send it to one of us and then we just, you know, we'll just make it a shared folder for everybody in the committee, so that way, because I don't want to keep emailing documents, right? I'd rather just have it all on one shared web page, and then I can just pull up if I want to review it or whatnot.
That almost sounds like a subcommittee question to get that
Oh.
worked out.
All the answers to Jack's questions are in there.
I just
too.
read it right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Iron
you.
fence dipped in galvanized powder coated green.
Compare it to the police fence and see where.
I just saw their new fence.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I haven't had any experience with the Google storage system on Google Drive, so I wouldn't be any help right now. But
Okay,
I would, get your subcommittee together and
yeah.
see what you can do. But would the district have concerns about documents being put out on a non-secure server?
Well, pretty much everything we do is public anyway. There's nothing that we do that isn't public knowledge or,
It's not
Yeah.
jail.
and there's
No, it's
nothing
not
that,
like-
that someone couldn't come in and request at the front door and we wouldn't give to them.
You can set it up that just, we would be able to have access to it also. You have to sign in through Google Docs. It's a link.
Or does our web page would allow that? Can you add since it's public documents, can you maybe add a folder that's, I don't know, called working documents, I don't know, something, so that way she can just drop files?
I'm hesitant to do that because I don't know how much control I have over the website right now.
Yeah,
And I don't want to get into a situation where I can't easily drop information to you.
So you'd have to still email it
I'd
to
have
somebody?
to email it to them, then they'd have to upload it, and I'd have to
Okay.
wait, and then we have to make sure the link works.
Oh, my
No,
goodness.
But, I mean, if we have it in the Google Drive, it's easy for you
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, I know.
So we might have a suggestion from the public.
Oh,
I was going to ask Melissa if all these were in electronic format, and if she could email them to me, and I could put it in, have a special folder if you want me to set up another folder and put it on our website, so she doesn't have to deal with the school district's IT.
I'd be happy to send it electronically to whoever would like it.
Yeah, I think if you could, and I think I sent you an email, and I said, whatever you sent to Georgette, please copy me,
Oh, okay.
because they are public records, so, and I can come down to school district and get them. So if you send them to me, I'll be glad to spend my time and put them on the website, so if somebody wants to visit the website, they will be
Absolutely.
there.
Wow. Jack?
So, thanks to Julie's great investigative talents, we reviewed the Crusader fence proposal, and it does have a 14-day shelf life, so to speak, for that proposal, and it was proposed in September, so is that going to be any kind of a issue going forward?
No, they're on schedule, they're ready to go, they've already ordered the iron fencing, it was
Okay.
approved by the board, we're
Perfect.
moving forward.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
Any other committee comments on the recent financial statements? You ready to move on?
so, I'm sorry, what did we ended up with the file sharing?
Well, right now, we can post it on,
The Measure Q.
I will try to get it posted on our website. I just don't want to use that as our form of communication. I'm fine posting whatever you want me to post on the website. I just
On
don't
what
think it's-
website?
On the Measure Q website. I just don't think it's an effective way to communicate between us.
Right, I think a Dropbox is probably,
It's just faster because you
Yeah.
get, you know,
I think
you
the
get
Dropbox
you
would
get an
probably be
email
the
already.
best at this point till we figure out what's going on with the website, yeah. And then, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, but.
I'm saying-
So are we,
I'm happy to put all of these documents on the Measure Q website and forward them as well for the other website. But I'm just saying that I don't think Measure Q website is going to be a way for us to communicate quickly.
right.
So I would think that we could do both, if that's, am I doing too much?
Well,
I think the website is more for the public, not for us to communicate with each other.
right, so can we just do a Dropbox then? So that
Yes.
way we get notified right away, hey, ding, there's something for you in there.
I'm fine with the Dropbox, the Google Drive, whatever you prefer.
Okay, so do you want us to set one up, or do you?
I'm fine
'cause-
setting it up if you just tell me what you would like to be set up.
Or, I mean, we already have our Gmail accounts
So
that's
we
strictly
already
for
have a drive.
CBOC.
All of us already have a
Right,
drive.
so I don't know what the limitation is, but I'll create a folder strictly for contracts, and then maybe you can just, and then I'll just share it with everybody. What is that word? But you also want to see it public, right?
Well, I'm still gonna put it on the website.
Oh, you're still gonna put it on the
Yeah.
website, okay. Well, that would be perfect, so that way at least it's still up to the public, and then we get notified right away when there's something in there. So I'll send you a link to the shared folder, and of course, everybody will get it. And then, as you drop info, then we'll do it that way, okay.
Is this a new Schneider Electric contract?
No, it's the same Schneider contract.
This is
Oh, no, wait. We
purchase-
do have a new one, but it's not in regards to this.
This one says date 10/19/2018.
No, this is the same one.
Now,
What they did was, we were not at this time, we were not retaining one PO per contract. So if you look at the second page of this, there's a second PO, and this one is actually from May of 2014. And if you add these two POs together, they equal the contract amount. So the top two forms together are the contract, equal the contract that's below that. It crossed fiscal years, and we had a miscommunication on how to handle the POs when it crosses a fiscal year, and there was an impression that you needed to do a new PO instead of rolling it, so that's been corrected, but that's what this is.
now this is the one that was supposed to be paid with a grant.
It's partially paid for a grant, so if you look at the bottom of the page where it says account distribution, the first PO that ends in 395, that shows that.
Which page are you on?
I'm on the purchase order 395. At the very top corner right here, it says PO 19-00395.
Right,
Okay, so if you go down into the center and you see account distribution on that page,
oh, okay.
and it says account distribution in gray, and then directly below that, there's the 460 and the 118,000. Do you see those two numbers?
Yeah, I see them.
Okay, so-
That's our portion of it?
The
I mean,
portion that came out of Measure Q is what we call Fund 21, so it's 118,000. But really, if you look on this, Measure Q got credit for the 460 on this page and the 187 on the previous page. So we expense that grant on these services.
So technically Schneider had a 578 plus 187?
Actually, this one was the one that's kind of weird, so
Oh.
it's the first two pages added together. So their contract is actually 880,000.
Oh, okay. But all we really care about is the Fund 21, right? The 118 that got hit up.
Well, I think it's very nice that
Well,
all
I
that
underst-
other money,
No, I understand that, I get that. Thank you very much.
We used the entire grant towards this. But yes, all of it went towards the project, but the only expense to Measure Q is the 118.
Okay.
Will that show on these reports that you're giving us, that expenditure for that portion of it that's Fund 21?
Yes. Well, I didn't print the whole year-to-date, so if you look at the last one, the encumbrance
Yeah.
is there. This one I think is actually there too. I think I saw it at the bottom. On page, where are we? Yeah, it's encumbered. That's a different one. I found it. No, it's not gonna be on this one, because this one only captures those few days. It doesn't cover October 19th, so it would be on the one I gave you at the last meeting. It's on that one.
Yeah, I see it. For October 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 118,202.99 cents.
These POs are kind of helpful, having them handy.
So we've expended our portion of that.
I believe, I don't know, I have to look at the previous report to know if it's already been paid or not, but it's definitely
Shows
been.
118,000 in the expense column.
Okay, then yes, it has been.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We ready to move on? Okay. So we'll move on to our third item, the strategy for release of our CBOC annual report to the community. Now, we were waiting to get rewrite from me of a couple paragraphs pertaining to some concerns raised by Gary, and I know Georgette wanted to review a few financial statements for the report. So where are we on that, Georgette?
I touched base with Miss Melissa. Basically, I should be able to get something to review by next week. And from there, hopefully there aren't too much, exchanges or whatnot, but I'm expecting that we should be, I mean, for my part, I should be done by if not the end of December, maybe early January.
Okay.
So,
And
but
I
that's
have-
just for that part.
Yeah, and I have 2 paragraphs to work on that I've committed to do, and I think that's it.
Right, this is ready. It's
Yes.
just there was some language I have in there that I didn't feel comfortable leaving it in there until we reviewed the financial stuff, so.
Okay. So that seems to be on track, because we have to look at the statement on the bonds and that bit, and then that one paragraph pertaining to the school board meeting in June or July that Gary wanted redone. So that's it. So I guess the next thing is to discuss how we want to go about releasing this in January when we're finally done with it. I mean, do we want to just post it? Do we want to publicize in the papers that it's ready for review? What would we like to do as a committee?
Well, for sure on our web, that's a for sure, I think.
Yeah, and we'll get it on your
Should
web.
blast that.
Yeah.
I think the social media, Robert, I
Well,
guess.
what
it
was
does
the,
something.
what was the way we did that interim report? Did
We
we,
just-
was it just on the web?
We just posted it on the web. We really did not highly publicize it.
Okay.
I think you could do an article in the Dixon Tribune. I think
Maybe an article upstairs.
Press release article, yeah.
Okay. I will write up another article for the Dixon Tribune.
It just has to be
Yep.
short.
Yeah,
Yep.
just like a press
quick.
release, but I would wait until our website is corrected.
Oh, no. When is that going
Well, hopefully soon. I mean, we're talking January for this, right?
Okay.
So it should be before then.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
We don't want to steer people to the site that's
Okay.
accurate.
So since we still got a little bit of work to do, I'm not going to propose any action at this time. Just leave it as a discussion item. Okay, any other comments on that? Public comments?
I will suggest a press release to all three newspapers, Vacaville Reporter, Dixon Tribune, and the Independent Voice.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports from our subcommittees. We can talk about the website committee first. We've already covered a few items there.
So we'll follow up with Melissa
Okay,
and see who actually is administering that. We can make those changes. I guess then through Mark too, since if there is something that the staff from the district can do.
so do we have a date for that initial meeting?
I can email you, Melissa and Andrea, and we can set something up to walk through it.
Pretty good the rest of the month to
Okay.
meet.
Okay, cool.
So when you get that scheduled, please send me a note. If I can sneak out of work, I'll try to do so.
Okay. And Gary, I know you had, there's some things that you pointed out, if you are still seeing corrections that we need to have made.
I'll have to take another look at
Okay.
that. I haven't looked at the website recently.
Yeah, I think the most irritating things for me is, the future items, like for this meeting, there's nothing posted there. There's no calendar there. So there's still parts that are just incomplete
Yeah.
and need to be flushed out,
It still plays that video when you start it too.
which needs to be taken off now. No.
I will suggest the district to hire me to do their website. I've been doing hours. As soon as I got the agenda and all the documents from Rose last Friday, it was on our website within half an hour. The videos of last meeting and this meeting is going to be on the website tomorrow. So if you guys are looking for something and you cannot find it on Dixon Measure Q, look Measure Q Oversight and it will be there.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it for the website committee? Okay, audit committee?
We just
We
need
just
the
kinda went through it,
date
didn't
for
we?
when, just need the date for when it's going to be presented. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we already had a discussion of the audit committee.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay. Any other reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comment for any non-agenda item. Okay, seeing none. Move on to unfinished business. We've already talked about the Measure Q website. Is there any additional information there? Nope. Okay, moving on. the legal charges against bond funds. So Melissa has an update on that.
So I did review if it was charged to the bond or to Measure Q or not, and it was, as I was told, it was charged to Measure Q. The lawyers also help us with a lot of different things, such as contract development, documents, and it is a legitimate part of the soft cost of the bond, and we do believe that this was a legitimate expense of the bond. And if you were to review the meeting minutes from June 21st, or I'm not sure if it was the 21st, I'm sorry, but from June, Mr. Soldani was there to answer a lot of questions and to clarify a lot of information that was miscommunicated or misunderstandings between all of us, and to clarify some law. So we do feel like it was a valid expense of the bond, and it was a legitimate expense of the bond.
What was it, $2,000 or something?
2,400.
So will we be okay, I understand that the legal fees, so what's the name again of the company? I'm sorry.
Atkinson
Atkins,
Andelson.
okay. So Atkins do assist with all, I'm assuming with the solicitations, putting together documents, stuff like that. That's fine. But if there's any upcoming reason why they would come up or anything other than the normal assistance for putting together solicitations or whatnot, maybe notify us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do intend on doing that in the future because it was something that we discussed after the fact, and we realized that that did play a part into the situation now. And so we definitely want to communicate with you before the fact if he was to come out again.
Okay.
So if you go back and take a look, at the draft audit report and go on page 12, towards the bottom, it basically talks about the limitations on use of the bonds. And it's a very simple statement, so I don't want to read it. You can read it, but I'm just wondering how the district squares what you said with that item where it states limitations on the bond, because you might be faced with the task of having to explain that expenditure in next year's financial and performance audit, because, dealing with this committee, is not what I would call an authorized expense relating to the construction, rehabilitation, replacement of school facilities, so forth. And I would basically classify it as, something that's not to be used for any other purpose, including teacher and administrative salaries. I would basically put that legal expenditure in that latter part, if I were looking at it. And I'm a little bit concerned that the general public may take a similar interpretation, and, for that, what was it, $6,000, $2,000? It's just not worth the hassle.
While I still believe it is a legitimate expense of the bond, I do agree that if they were to come in the future, that we would be willing to let you know. And we are, since this did happen and we'd communicated after the fact, we're willing to reverse the $2,400. I also want to mention this was audited, and it was not a finding when we were audited. In this audit, this is covered in that time period. This was an expense of June. So this has already been audited by our auditors, but we are willing to reverse it and communicate with you in the future before the lawyer would attend any future meetings.
Well, what did the auditors review? What was the basis of it?
They audited all the expenditures
Yeah,
for
but they
Fund
didn't
20.
they didn't make a determination whether it was appropriate or not, did they?
The audit is saying that if we expended funds in accordance with Measure Q, and the audit has shown that we are in accordance with expenditures in Measure Q.
But if you just list it as legal fees associated with the bond,
They actually had me pull every single legal fee because they heard that it was an issue. So I had to pull all the legal fees for the whole year and give them every single one, which was a lot of fun.
So
But, so they have audited it, and, but we as a district have decided that we are willing to reverse this and communicate with you in the future if their attendance would be required.
Well, I think both from a public viewpoint and this committee's viewpoint, I would strongly encourage you to reverse it.
As we will.
And I think that would solve the problem.
Yep.
Yes.
I was just going to ask you, actually.
Since you're coming
No,
up.
since you're coming up, you had talked about some other citizens oversight committees actually having their own legal services.
Yes, the Contra Costa County Oversight Committee, they have an attorney that is being paid by the district. So when the Oversight Committee has legal issues and legal questions, they call their attorney.
Paid by the
and-
district, though, not out of the
No,
bond measure.
No, by the district. And this
Okay.
is what I want to also point out. If the Bond Oversight Committee had some legal questions and they requested for the attorney to be here to provide information and answer your questions, it will be, I will believe that maybe it could be charged to Measure Q. However, if you go back and look at the board meetings and the minutes, what Mr. Soldani said tonight, the board directed him to come and talk to you, not the other way around. And I think that should not be charged to the bond if they, because the board can direct people to come here and do all those kinds of things and then charge it to the bond. And I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
And we intend on addressing that by reversing this charge and notifying the Bond Oversight Committee if the lawyer would need to attend any time in the future before that transpires.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I think that's the right direction to go.
Yeah, I'll say on behalf of the bond committee, we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
So again, I just want to be clear, I'm sorry, I just want to be clear. All the legal expenses supposedly are towards assisting with writing whatever, contract documents, assisting with the bid documents, stuff like that. That's what their
Their main-
duty is
yes.
as part of the Measure Q that we will pay
Yes.
for. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So other than that, if for some reason, anything outside of that, you'd let us know?
In advance.
Okay, in advance, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Ready to move on to the next item? Okay. This is the follow-up on the requested financial documents to complete the annual CBOC report. We've pretty well covered that, Georgette. You've already been in communication and you
Yes.
discussed the timeline for that, so unless
I don't
there's-
think we need to spend any more time. I
we're
think
done
we're
with
good.
that. Last item for unfinished business is the bond assessment rate. We have touched on that a little bit. We did get the long email from Aurelia on that. Thank you. I'm going to have to read it a few more times before it actually sinks in, and we'll go back to your website under the report section and study that some more, and I will complete my task of rewriting those paragraphs. Other than that, I think we've discussed that enough.
Do you feel confident that with the email that I've sent, or do you not feel confident with the information that we've received?
I feel confident that we have sufficient information. I basically have to teach myself a little bit about it at this point to summarize it in my 2 paragraphs. And in fact, I may reach out to some folks for some help on that to proof it and make sure I got it right before I put it in the final version of our annual report.
I guess you're going to have to really write it down in layman's term because I'm not understanding it still. But
Well, I
when
think
you-
that if we had Mr. Lomelli and Rachel come in, I think that that's really where all of us are going to be able to understand this more
Right.
clearly. I think it,
Yeah, I think going forward, I would really appreciate that, but I think we ought to be able to come up with a 2-paragraph summary of the information we have. Maybe I can email it to them and have them read it.
I'm sure
and-
Rachel would be happy
yeah.
to talk to you over the phone as well if
Yep.
you'd like.
Would you do me a favor and send me her contact information, please?
Rachel is with whom again?
With Cooperative Strategies.
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said Rachel.
Okay.
Any public comment on the unfinished business items? We're on date.
I think Todd and Georgette received a copy of the email I sent to Miss Betancourt. I don't know what the question was to her, but she replied to an email from Mr. Dolan, and she said that the Measure J rate it was 53.75%, and the Measure Q rate was 31.34%. But she failed to say in that email that this rate is for the fiscal year 2018-2019. And as we talked earlier, the payment for this year, it's less than it was in 2017-2018. And since this committee is writing their report for the 2017-2018 year, I think this tax rate does not apply for this year's report. The previous tax rate will apply. And that's what I did tell Ms. Betancourt. I have not received a reply from her, but I don't think I copy you, but I copy Chuck Lamelli because he had him, he got a copy. I copy Brian and everybody else that it was in her email. And so I just want to make sure that you guys, when you write your report, it was higher in the year that you write in the report, and this applies for this coming tax year.
Thank you. That's an important piece of information.
I think we should ask the school district to support us in having the auditor controller provide that information for the our tax bill to the treasurer who does it, to separate those two issues. I think it's very important that Measure Q and Measure J, people know this, maybe only 10% of the people care, but, it's important information. And I'm not asking that, for example, Measure J, I believe, has been refinanced at least twice. I'm not asking, wouldn't be asking that they would show each and every one of the, amounts after, just for the measure, that there'd be an amount, so they'll know how much they're paying for the old high school or the new high school, and how much they're paying for the new middle school that we're refurbishing. And, to me, that's just transparency. I think the community college has got about 6 different bond issues on my tax statement, and I'm sure on everybody else's that has a property in Solano County. So I don't think it would be asking too much for them to have 2 entries for us.
They have 5.
They have to know what it is. They have to know those numbers.
And Gary, they could do the sheet that comes with your tax bill. They could even at least, put it on here, kind of what this breakdown is.
I think they should put it right on the tax
Yeah.
assessment.
Well, like you said, the Solano Community College, there are 5
When
they
you
list.
start talking,
6,
yeah,
yeah.
you start talking about things, people understand dollars that they're being charged if they're looking at their tax bill. A lot of people that have their mortgage company paying their tax bill, they don't look at it. They just look at this one big number and not pay attention, but
Oh, some of us look at it. I was kidding.
I do.
well, I
When I
tell
get it,
you,
I say, I hope my mortgage company paid it.
Yeah, exactly.
anyway, that might be something we need to think about to get a little more transparency on that.
I just don't understand why they combined it like that when they did not do it for the Solano Community College. Why combine it for one, not the other?
We didn't get an answer when that question was asked. It just, what was the comment about, something about the community college's bonds are out of control. Well, we're not out of control. We've got two issues out there. We've got Measure J and Measure Q. So it doesn't, and they have the numbers. They have to have the numbers. Different people own those bonds, so I don't think they're going to lump it all together and they lose track of who owes what they owe to who.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, moving on, new business. I sent out a email request trying to get people to take a look at their schedule between now and June 30th. Does anyone have any blackout dates that they already know or they will be unavailable for future bond committee meetings?
I'm out of state and country the last 2 weeks of January.
Okay. Do we want to have a January meeting?
I'm not going to be here in any of the Wednesdays.
In January?
Yeah, my kids got basketball, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll say until June, once we get the sports schedules for swim and track and
Exactly.
baseball and.
So,
Do we need a meeting to actually approve our,
no,
No.
we approved it with
Right.
the contingency that we would make those changes that we have already discussed, and we discussed those changes with a very vigorous public discussion. So I think when we, as a committee, are ready, we can go ahead and release without additional meeting. So unless it looks like the next dates available for our next meeting might be the second or third week in February, can you work with the, I guess it's the assistant city clerk to see room availability and let me know? And then I do understand that there's no official recording of this meeting being made because it wasn't put on the recording agenda. That was from talking to our Carlos, the technology guru there in the back. So he says this is not being captured. They're burning it to a CD and might be able to
Oh,
capture it that way, but it's not being captured in the normal recording system because there was no request made by the assistant city clerk. So we gotta make sure
I'll
that,
have to look into that.
yeah, apparently that happened at the last meeting in
I thought last
November.
meeting it was because they had a change in, I'll get back to you.
Okay, so we gotta get that fixed and that part of the normal routine. And then I think for this meeting, your financial report was not attached or made available.
I just brought the copies, I'll have it attached.
Okay, so it's a learning experience for all of us, so we'll get this straightened out for the February meeting. Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yep.
Last time you talked also about hiring the consultant upon John's leaving. Has that person been hired or?
That contract's actually going to the board tomorrow night.
Okay.
that's the school.
School site solutions.
Solution.
Yes, so just to give you a little update, we did get our plans out of DSA. We're very excited. We're going to try to get to bid in February. So that's where we are right now with the middle school. And then with the security project, we are working, like I mentioned earlier, to get the fencing installed at GH over Christmas break. So there are some things moving forward, and it's very exciting.
Good.
Nice.
Tad, can I add some standing items under new business? Or, well, it's new business because it's not here.
Okay.
But can I add some standing agenda items for moving forward?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so my first one would be, just like what Ms. Melissa was already mentioning, schedule and, basically construction. Every meeting, we should be notified as to where, if there's any construction going on, what's upcoming or whatnot. So schedule and, schedule would be great, I guess, construction schedule. And, I know we were working on having a project budget summary, so maybe just a project budget, it's just more of a touch base where we've expended 40% or whatever, you know what I mean? Just something like that, so that way we know where we're at.
I did send you an additional document during the meeting, too.
Okay.
Just on the middle school only, though.
Okay. And then also another standing item would be solicitations, because this DMS is not the only, there's other projects going on. And lastly, we need to work on our 1819 report. So we need to be able to keep that on our standing item and not remove it, so.
Okay, and I usually will try to send out an email, asking for agenda items. So I will try to attach a rough draft. So if I miss something, it'll be more obvious rather than saying, put this in, when you might think I already did. So that's a good catch.
And you made I think you put in something in your email about the concerns about the money available to finish all these projects. Are we on, if we were on target to, be within the projected expenses for, say, the middle school, or are we going to need to spend more for that? Those are things that, the big picture, of where we are financially, I think is important.
Yeah, that would be.
I don't know if,
The document Georgette and I are working on should really capture that.
Yeah, so like I said, that standing item right there, the project budget, that will show us basically that they're under. I'm sorry, but, we don't have enough Measure Q fund money, so that will give the district the opportunity to tell us how they're going to be able to cover the rest. Let's just say that, right?
We're only currently under on, we're under on the middle school project. And we are going out to the state for modernization dollars. We anticipate getting $3 million. We will probably submit to them in January, and we'll probably hear back probably within 6 weeks after that to know if we're approved for the $3 million. But we've been preliminarily approved, but not officially approved. So that our concern right now is bridge financing, because there will be a cash flow issue between the completion of the project and when we actually receive the modernization dollars. So we are talking about bridge financing during the interim while we do not receive those funds.
some type of short-term borrowing you're speaking of?
Yes. We haven't, we're waiting until when everything is gone to OPSC to take that to the board so that they can make their decision, how we can fund the cash flow.
What meeting will that be at?
It won't be until January or February.
Okay.
We don't have a set date just yet.
Well, this issue was $19 million. The middle school was 14,
13.5.
so we haven't spent all that, we haven't spent that additional money.
No, we haven't spent that's one of the options that we could consider, is drawing down funds from another project and then paying that project back. There's good implications and negative implications of that. Some of the positive implications is that we would draw down the money at a lower interest rate. But then there's two different ways we could draw down $3 million right now, or we could draw down the entire balance. The scary part about drawing down the entire balance while the interest rates would be lower is that we don't know that we'll be able to complete the Anderson project in time after we draw those funds down. So that's one of the ways that we might possibly fund it. A different way could be using our current developer fees and trying to use those to bridge the gap, or use, There's just a few different options that we presented to the last board meeting, and I'd be happy to do that same presentation for you. I didn't create the presentation, our financial advisor did, but I would feel comfortable going through that presentation with you to show you the options that we'll be presenting the board for the bridge financing. Not all, some of them will have an impact on Measure Q, and some of them would not have any impact on Measure Q.
Our next meeting probably won't be till the second or third week in February, so it would be nice to present that at that time, because I think the board would have already made their decision, or could have.
We'll be very, very close at
Yeah.
that time. So it would be good. The only additional cost that is potential would be if we were to do 2 drawdowns instead of 1. There would be an additional, what was that, the 230,
Cost of issuance?
the cost of issuance. There would be an additional cost of issuance, but it could be offset that by us drawing the money down at a lower interest rate instead of later when the interest rates are higher. So these are just all potential, just things we're talking about. None of this is set in stone. These are just different avenues to cover the cash shortfall.
You're not talking about issuing beyond the 19 million. Is that what you said, additional issues?
I'm saying,
Bond
and
issue?
we had always planned on doing 2 issuances.
Right.
And instead of doing 2, we're talking about possibly doing 3. Instead of drawing down at 2 times, we would draw down 3 million and then the balance when we're ready to do Anderson. But we would pay that back with the modernization dollars.
Yeah. Every
So you'll
time-
present something anyway, so it's already
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 different options that we have pending right now, but we really need to hear from OPSC and make sure that we really truly are approved for the modernization dollars, and that way the board can make a decision with all the information. Because if we're not approved for the modernization dollars, it's a totally different conversation. But we really do anticipate from all of the people that we've been working with that the modernization dollars, we're in line for, we're getting in time, and we should qualify for those. The problem with those with those funds are, that it just takes a long time for them to finally issue them to you. It could take 3-4 years. They're saying we may not see the $3 million until 2022. From OPSC, or from the state. That doesn't make any sense, you're confused.
And when is Anderson supposed to be done by? Is there a time frame?
Geez, I'm just,
The Anderson project wouldn't even start until we had all the kids into the
Right.
new school,
2020, okay.
2020, and then we would have to move all of those kids to CAJ, and then we'd be able to start working on Anderson.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
So they'll be temporarily housed at CAJ
Right.
during the construction process.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a summary report in February would be very helpful.
Okay. I think that'd be a good time. Cooperative Strategies will be here anyway, because I'm going to invite them for the tax rate portion, so it'd be good, they could probably just do both
Is
presentations.
that the guy that presented with you at the school
Yes,
district?
that's the same
Okay,
presentation I'm
'cause
referring to.
Yeah, he's the one that confused me, that said the tax rate was gonna be okay within whatever the Measure Q said. And I'm like, no, it's higher right now. I don't know. Anyways, it would be great for him to be here.
Okay, yeah. So
He's gonna be here
If they're
anyways.
gonna be here in February, might as well have them do both items at one time.
Okay.
So they could talk about the bridge financing as well as the tax rate.
nobody knows what it's going to be, because nobody knows how much real estate value is going to be in this county through the life of this bond. That's the big unknown. Everybody knows how much we owe on this bond issue. We don't even know what the interest rates are going to be on the next one, but we certainly don't know what the value of property is going to be, so nobody can give you any guarantees on that at this point. Believe me.
Okay. Any other new business items?
You want me to ask the treasurer, Chuck Lamelli, to come at our next meeting?
Not February, we're booked on February now. Yeah, so this would probably be either March or April. But, first approach and see if he's be willing to do it. And then we can work with him.
Well, I don't have any question. He's come to our taxpayer organization and, I think he's open to it, as long as he knows what he wants us to discuss, or wants
Okay.
him to discuss.
And we have to make sure he's available, so we have a little bit of work to do on that scheduling.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other items under new business? Okay, any announcements? We've already covered future meetings. Okay, I'm ready to adjourn.
Yes.
Okay,
Happy
Like-
holidays.
happy
Happy
holidays, and
holidays.
call this meeting adjourned.
Time to take your wife.